Hello. Ready? Okay, welcome to the Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 Planning and Zoning Board Meeting, City Hall. Roll call?
Mark Hum,
Here.
Juan Cotton,
Here.
Dave Matthews, Hank Paulsky,
Here.
Dan Waleski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any additions, deletions, recording, and approval of the agenda? Do in a minute. Anything? Okay, so do we approve of the agenda? Approval minutes?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for August 6th.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So we have cases. If applicants or the staff, if you will speak today, we'd like to have you sworn in.
Stand and raise your right hand if you plan to give testimony. Are you planning on speaking or no?
No.
Okay. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes. Thank you.
All right. So do we have a publication for 732 South Dixie Highway? Also 1617 North Lakeside. And then we have an ordinance, 2025-15. We have the proof of publication?
It was all included in the meeting packet.
Okay, just double check. Withdrawals and postponements, anything change? All right. Board disclosure. Anything to talk about?
Nope.
Nobody golfing at Mar-a-Lago this weekend?
No.
No? All right. Let's hit new business. PZB project number 25-01500004. Consideration of a variance request for 1617 North Lakeside Drive to allow a boat and boat trailer to park in front of the building line. The subject site is zoned single-family residential, SFR, and has a future and designation of single-family residential as well, SFR. Would the staff like to enlighten us a little bit on this variance request?
Yes, I'm Karina Maldonado, the Senior Community Planner. So the property at 1617 North Lakeside Drive is located on the west side of North Lakeside Drive between 16th Avenue North and 18th Avenue North. And here's a little visual of the map. So some background on the property. Based on the city records, the site was constructed in 1979. April of this year, the site did get cited by code enforcement for parking a recreational vehicle in front of the front building line. The applicant met with planning and zoning to discuss variances, and in May, they applied. And also in May, the code violation was closed because the applicant removed the boat. So in our review of the variance, we found that the site originally needed 4 variants. I had numerous discussions with the applicant or the property owner, and working out a few different proposals, and we were able to get it down to 1 variance needed. So the 1 variance needed is based on LDR section 23.4-11D1, where recreational vehicles must be parked or stored behind the front building line. The applicant is proposing to park and store the boat with the trailer in front of the front building line. So here's a proposal that the applicant has provided. The portions in red are not done yet. Excluding the south side existing screening that's there, but the applicant is proposing to add a parking space and additional screening on the north property side. So we did our analysis based on the variance criteria. We found that the first criteria, the site does meet this criteria requirement, mainly because the site was built with about 4.5 to 5.5 feet side setback on both sides. And the front property was built at 25.5 feet. And due to the narrow sides of the setback and the minimum setback in the front, we found that the site is constrained and couldn't fit a boat and the trailer on the side or in the front outside of the front building line. And the rear of the property, the site doesn't have access to park, and they also have a boat, so they're pretty built out in the back too. Or excuse me, a pool in the rear. So we found that they do meet this criteria. For criteria 2 and 3, we found that it does not meet these two criterias, mainly because the house or the use of the site is a single family residence, and the boat necessarily doesn't affect that continued use of a single family home. Therefore, that's why we found that it didn't meet these two criterias. And then the last criteria, we found that it did meet this one, mainly because we found that it wouldn't be detrimental to the public welfare or the neighborhood. The applicant is providing additional mitigation efforts, including the additional parking space, to not need to park on the street for their regular vehicles, and to add additional screening as much as they can to screen it as much as they can. I do want to note we did receive one public comment in opposition of the proposal. And in conclusion, as you know, for staff to recommend approval of the variance, we have to find that it meets all 4 of the criterias. We found it only meets 2 of the 4. And the 2 that we could not recommend approval towards is because the boat doesn't affect the use of the single family home. So therefore, we're recommending that the variance is not approved. But if the board decides to approve the variance, we have a list of 10 conditions of approval. The first 2 are requiring permits for the additional parking space and the landscaping. The third one is that it is specific to the owner of the property. If they were to sell it, the variance would be voided. And then the remaining conditions are typical. It's in the code for typical boat parking in residential districts, where it needs to be registered, it needs to be owned by the property owner, can't be used for sleeping, and those items. These are the motions, but the applicant did provide photos of the boat when it was parked there. That patch of grass on the side, that's where they are proposing additional landscape screening. Here's a survey of the property as it is today. And then here is the proposed site plan that they submitted. And then they have a color-coded one that we reviewed the lot coverage for. So that concludes it. I'll leave it on the photos. If you have a different plan you want me to show you, I can put that up.
Are there any public comments? Other
Yes,
than what you-
yes, I thought it was in the packet.
If it wasn't, put it in the electronic.
Got it.
That's. If there were photos, would have been part of that.
And I don't believe that it was. I don't believe that there was anything.
See
Not this.
No, I've got the full packet up.
Yeah.
So obviously there was something from a neighbor that was opposed.
Yes.
Okay.
Not the direct neighbor, it was someone within the 400-foot radius.
Got it.
Who stated that they would not want a boat variance approval because it would possibly set precedent for.
Does set price for the area. I defer back to our legal counsel, which we have here. And I think that there is an explanation as to why there are 4 criteria and variances should be approved if they meet the 4 criteria. Is that correct?
Variances may be approved if they meet the 4 criteria.
Right. Okay, not should, may.
Not right.
Of course.
But the goal is always full compliance with the code. And the idea behind a variance is that that full compliance with the code cannot be met. And that's how those criteria are set forward.
Right. So it's a very stringent and a pretty high level type of thing. The biggest thing is that, yes, there would be precedent and other people would come back and ask for the same thing. I'd let the rest of the board, that's what I've had to say, but
Yeah, I know in the past variances that we've looked at were a little bit different than this one. You know, they were more attached to structural elements of buildings that couldn't be modified or that were, you know, significant to the owner. I feel like this is our code. And I don't necessarily, I personally kind of am very much in favor of property rights. And I wouldn't mind if the city were to look at this again from a code perspective to say, in these circumstances, under these conditions, with these requirements, we would allow it. But I don't think it's appropriate for us to use a variance to do that because it's not really an issue, you know, in terms of something that was built out and done inappropriate or that the code has changed to modify this. It's an issue of parking a boat in the front of your house. And I don't really see the support for a variance based on codes analysis, based on the city staff analysis here, which I agree with.
I was wondering too, when you have the additional driveway, is that gonna leave enough green area? Because he doesn't really have a lot of lawn. There's
Yes.
Nothing in the back.
Yes, that's where we thought they would have.
impervious to impervious.
Yeah, we originally thought they would need 4 variances, but he reduced it to just like parking ribbon so that he would meet the front yard landscape requirements and the total impervious surface coverage. And that would also be reviewed during building permit again.
Well, we certainly, through several meetings, talk about the different variances and hardship and so forth, but I have to agree that with the board here that I don't believe that we have to abide by the variance and we don't have the right variance on this.
This is also a luxury item, which is mobile, right? This isn't an absolute necessity. And I think it would set a very difficult precedent for the neighborhood that never really had this intended for it. So that's my piece.
I do have the public comment here. If you
Okay.
Sure.
As dear board members, as a homeowner located within the radius, we object to the proposed variance. We do not oppose the current use of the property to park a small boat in an inconspicuous driveway, but we strongly object to a precedent that may lead to similar variances in the future. Front yard boat storage detracts from the tidy open feel of our neighborhoods, so we'd like to avoid it. Sincerely, Michael Anderson, Christina Steinhaus of 1531 North Palm Way.
Okay.
Is the applicant here? Did the applicant want to say anything? So you're good. You didn't want to talk.
I'll give my opinion. We'll have to.
You,
Yeah,
well,
come up,
you'd have to
state your name.
This one in as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to speak, you have to be sworn. So
Do you swear in front of the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yeah, thank you. No, I understand your comments and I appreciate the time that you're allotted for me to speak and also the support from the staff. You've been very helpful in this whole process. But when I bought my home 14 years ago, there was a boat and trailer sitting in the exact same spot from the previous owner. And as a resident of the community for 14 years, the perception and appearance that I get walking around the neighborhood is not as such that others don't do the same thing or do the same thing in a very close to similar method. So the building line is a very arbitrary, line in which is drawn on particular property sizes. And in this case, in the lot of my home being so small and others having the luxury to do such storage on the side or near the front of their home building line, to me, it just, I don't see how it changes any precedent or appearance of the city. So again, I thank you all for your consideration. But that's just my take as a longtime resident.
The only other thing we had the same kind of issue come up with some Federal Highway a few years ago, when we turned that guy down too. Not that that's gonna make you feel any better, but that's what I'm, that we've already set a precedent by enforcing the code requirements. My opinion.
Strangely enough, I don't know, I mean, I know this sounds a little obtuse, but I don't know the legalities of it being on the street, which you probably don't want it to be on the street. But if it has like a clear tag, I don't know if the street would actually, if that would be something that, would may look into that with the sheriff or something like that.
And the landscape trailer.
Yeah, you can't leave them there. No, it has to be attached to something or whatever, I guess. Yeah, like mobile. Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to see something else, but would like a vote?
Yeah, I mean, I feel we've already stated all of it, and I just don't see the rationale to be able to approve this based on the conditions that are required for variance.
Right.
So I will, sorry, I'm looking for it here. I'll go ahead and make a motion. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna move to disapprove PZB project number 25-015-00004, a variance request for 1617 North Lakeside Drive to allow a boat and boat trailer to be parked in front of the front building line. The project does not meet the variance criteria based on the data and analysis in the staff report.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. On to item B. So the ordinance, oh yeah. You want to do the ordinance 2025? Would you like to read that or?
I will. Since this is amendment to the comprehensive plan, we'll read the title into the record. This is ordinance 2025-15, an ordinance of the city of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, amending the future land use element of the city's comprehensive plan and providing for severability, complex codification, and effective date.
All right, so no presentation for this one. It is, I would say, fairly straightforward. As you can see in your staff report and the draft ordinance that we had attached, this is really a text amendment to the future land use table, really kind of like a cleanup. So we're putting SFR under the medium density residential future land use and putting neighborhood commercial under the artisanal mixed use future land use. Like I said, it's really just a cleanup. This was initially kind of, we started taking a closer look at this table when we did some public outreach about a potential rezoning on the south side of the city. We started looking at the future land use and we're like, oh, wait a minute, there's some things that we need to correct in here. So this is really just kicking off that process to make those corrections. If you guys have any questions, we do also have Lance Lilly, consultant with Chen Moore, who's been kind of our point person on this project.
I have, well, not a question, but probably a statement. If you're changing from SFR to MDR in Lake Worth Beach, wouldn't that mean transiting the area from one focus almost exclusively on low density, detached single family houses to one that permits a mix of housing including duplexes, townhouses, multifamily buildings, which will result in a higher concentration of residents per acre, right? This is what, the way I read it. I always felt that the the SFR was focused more on neighborhood ability and quality of life and so forth. And I think that's going to change when this zone changes.
I think that's what this is.
So we're not changing the designation of any parcel of land by doing this. So we're not taking your single family neighborhood and making it a medium density residential future land use. There are plenty of places in the city that already have that aren't reflected in the comp plan future land use table. So we're not actually changing any particular neighborhood.
So
We're
in-
reflecting what already
So what-
exists.
You've got your zoning and you've got your future land use, right? There's
I know.
Well, yeah,
Really-
I read that, but
the issue, what they're trying to change is under the table for specifically nothing to do with with the low density future land use, but under the medium density future land use, the density doesn't go down far enough to allow single family. So you have to be townhouse or two family. So you can't have medium density as your future land use and then single family as your zoning. One of the things, so I'm kind of curious about
Yeah.
those areas because the only one that I'm aware of where this came up, which I think is coming before us again soon, is the townhouse project that was annexed into the city and given a future land use of medium density,
15
but
days.
wasn't given a zoning. And then the city was coming to us, asking us to modify the single family zoning that it was being assigned to. There was a whole lot of complication there. And I didn't support it at that time because it didn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm trying to understand where, like you said, that this came about because of some impacted areas. Could you elaborate on where those impacted areas are?
I appreciate that too.
So down again on the south side of the city near the Wembley Gym, I don't know if you guys have heard of Arms of Hope. So that area is the potential rezoning that prompted us to relook at the future land use table. That area is currently SFTF 14. Arms of Hope is a fairly sizable building that's operating a nonprofit that's not permitted in that zoning district. We've been looking at and did public outreach to the surrounding neighborhood about potentially rezoning that as neighborhood commercial or I believe it was artisanal industrial was the other one we were looking at. So again, that's the one that prompted us to look at this. So medium density residential, if you look at the text that's in the comp plan, it's intended for a variety of, it's also in your packet and in the staff report that Lance wrote for us. Medium density residential is intended to include development of single family residential properties. So including the single family zoning district as part of that is to better reflect that. It's not up zoning or up future land using anything in the city. It's just trying to reflect the intent.
Right, but it includes it, but also includes a higher density type of what he was talking about, a
Yeah.
higher density type of building. So the other thing too is it's almost like saying, we have here the neighborhood commercial, okay? And then now it's becoming the artisan. And the reason it's becoming artisan, we're doing a few projects there, it's because there is a different building type that's going in there. They're not allowing you anymore to put car repair shops. and things
Also
like
my
that in
point.
there, right? So that's another part of this, which I can see that very clearly. But if you can enlighten me and let me know why even the change, I understand you're part of it that says the mix, the medium also includes like lower density neighborhood. But then why even change it to the medium? Because obviously you want to include some other medium density type of buildings.
We're not changing it though, is what I'm saying. Lance, do you want to
Go ahead.
hop in?
Let me know why it's not changing,
Right.
because we're adding it. I don't know.
Good evening, board members. For the record, Lance Lilly with Chenmore and Associates, Senior Planner. First things first, I'd like to agree with what you're saying as far as that there are the uses in that particular zoning district or future land use already. The code does permit single family in the SFTF 14. So all this is we're just including an additional zoning district into that future land use, which is the SFR. However, please note, if any property were to be rezoned, that would still come before this board as well as the council to do that. This is just more so a clarification and consistency between comp plan and the allowable uses that are already permitted there. So for example, in the SFTF 14, that allows single family and it allows two family, multifamily, et cetera. So adding the SFR, we're just also including a broader range of single family uses in that particular zoning district, or let's say future land use district, sorry. And then as far as the NC, which we are proposing for the artisanal mixed use, there's already properties that are zoned NC. This is just more so a clarification and cleanup to make it sure that it's consistent, because technically speaking, those properties are not in compliance because that use is not compatible or in the actual table for the future land use. And that was all highlighted in the staff report.
Okay, so I've got one. I think we need to separate the two
Sure.
items completely from each other. You've
Yep.
got two different changes in the code that affect two completely different areas.
But I'm
Okay.
saying there isn't just one thing. There's two
Yeah.
things on
Yeah,
the table.
absolutely. So let's, the simpler one of the
That's what I
two, I
was trying
think,
to
is
say.
the residential. And I guess I need some clarification because I don't really understand the drive. If you have a medium density future land use and you have a single family, two family, 14, you can build any product that you could build under the single family, right? So this change doesn't allow anything that I can understand. I don't understand why we're doing it.
Why are you
So
changing it?
could you give me an example of why?
So again, this is again really also a cleanup issue. So we already have places in the city that are single family zoning, MDR future land use. That's not reflected in the table, which it should be. So this is something that already exists in our city. This is reflecting reality.
There'll be an overlap, you're saying.
Right.
So
There are two different things. The future land use is not your zoning district. Your zoning district is what is guiding your current development, right? So even if you are SFR with a medium density residential future land use, that doesn't mean you can build a duplex. That doesn't change what you can build on your property unless, like Lance was saying, you actually apply to rezone.
But it really, you're talking about incorporating SFR into SFTF 14,
No.
right?
No, SFTF 14 is a zoning district. Medium density residential is a future land use. The zoning districts are going to stay their own things.
could you pull up the two maps for us? Because so again, like just from a big picture thing, the future land use map is much bigger chunks and much fewer different categories. And then those are broken down into zoning districts within them. And to change a future land use is a much bigger deal than to get a rezoning on a property. So under properties that are already zoned medium density,
Right.
you could not have a zoning of single family. It's two family and up.
Under
And so
medium.
they're basically they're bringing it down to allow that lower
To a
intensity
lower
zoning within that future land use category.
Yeah, I
I'm
understood
just-
that part, but I thought, why? You know,
Yeah, and I don't quite, I guess
So-
if there are existing issues, I just didn't realize that there were. I've
Yeah.
looked at the map quite a bit. I didn't realize that there were medium density future land use areas that had single family zoning.
there's a lot of research on that.
I know there's a lot that have the single family, two family, but I didn't see.
Here's an example here. We're at, here we'll go all the way down here, like 4th Avenue South and South K Street. This is the future land use. It's MDR. 4th Avenue South and South K Street, single family zoning. So this, again, it already exists in the city, but it's not reflected in our comp plan, and it should be. Because medium density residential isn't supposed to include areas that have single family development. You know, that's in our text. It includes these types of uses, and we already have it on our map, but it's not consistent across our comp plan. So we're trying to do that cleanup there.
Where's the future land use map again? Sorry, you haven't both.
Yep, this is the future land use one.
I mean, the
That's
medium.
a zoning one, isn't it?
And
Or
I think
that's-
No, this is the future land use.
The future land?
Yep.
Okay, so
Annie, can you click on it again? Because it tells you both.
So
Yep.
this is
Whoop.
future land use. You can see that this goldish color is medium density residential. Flipping back, this kind of tan color, this is our zoning map, single family residential. You can even see it, yeah, right here.
Yeah, go back to the other one too, Annie, because it says both. It says the zoning and the. So if you notice in the middle, it says SFR, and then it says the future land use is MDR. So currently, the table that we have for the future land use does not contemplate the SFR in that particular future land use designation. And it's the same thing for the other one. I know we're separating the two, but it's the same reason. It's just inconsistencies with the current conditions of how the correct.
My opinion is that, and I think we're talking about the same things, is that, okay, we understand that the medium actually does incorporate the single family, correct? But does the single family incorporate the medium? No, it doesn't, right? That's why you're actually adding this in.
No.
No, this is strictly a consistency cleanup. Is the purpose of this is to clean up. Go ahead.
The question is, does the single family actually include everything the medium does? It does not.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so now we're labeling it, so you are downcycling something that basically you're basically taking it and adding it's very clear that it's a medium density now that is allowing different things that a single family would not. And maybe there are some buildings in there that meet that and they're existing.
You guys are gonna probably disagree with me on this one, but I mean, I'm kind of opposed to, because so I'm sorry, and I'm a little taken back because I could have sworn that area was single family, two family, and I own a lot in that area that I've been looking at building on, and I could have sworn that was single family, two family. And I guess the reason I think that is because of all the multifamily properties that are around it. And so if it's got a future land use of medium density and it's historically got medium density all throughout it, and there's an inconsistency, to me, the inconsistency is why did we go and rezone this thing single family when there's duplexes and townhomes all throughout that area?
And I'm all for
And
that.
but the issue is that's now an inconsistency because it's got a future land use of medium density, but at some point the city went through and changed the zoning to single family. And now you can't build medium
Right.
density and they want to fix it by changing the code to
And-
correct that rezoning.
But there is some.
And I know that, I don't know when the rezoning occurred, but definitely there is multifamily throughout that was legally built.
I'm gonna try my hand with
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So medium density future land use, as you all know, the future land use is the big bucket that you're saying our future plan for this property, what we want this area to look like is this future land use. So the city has a medium density residential future land use that currently has SFTF 14, MF 20, and
Single family.
and NC in it, that those are the appropriate zoning districts in medium density residential future land use. The city has since gone back and analyzed the maps and said, okay, well, that's great, but we also have many areas in the city that have single family residential zoning in medium density residential. And because you're not as dense as those other medium density residential zoning districts, it still functionally fits with medium density future land use. It's not as dense, but it is appropriate to be less dense. You wouldn't be more dense than what's allowed, but it is okay to be less dense still. So the city is recognizing this in this table change, that even though single family residential zoning district is less dense, will remain less dense than the other medium density residential uses, it is still appropriate in the medium density residential future land use.
I get that. But it's what we're getting at the end is it's actually allowing for more building and more dense building in those areas.
No,
Which is-
No,
No.
it's less.
It's-
because it's not changing the zoning district of any parcel in the city.
Correct.
No zoning districts are changing, which are what defines what you can build.
So if it's already zoned for SFR currently, then it has to meet whatever regulations are set forth in the SFR. If it was zoned SFTF 14, then it'd have to meet whatever regulations are allowed for that.
Block off that area and call it medium dense.
It already.
Yeah, those are already the way that the code's already set up.
Mm.
All those uses are already permitted or special exceptions or what have you.
Mm.
So realistically, all this is that's why I keep going back to the same thing. It's just clarification and consistency with what the comp plan versus what the code says.
Mm.
Because in this particular case, the map is showing that there's SFR areas, but yet our comp plan is saying that that's not even contemplated in that area, meaning that that area technically is not, I guess, consistent, or I don't know if I want to say latter.
And because your future land use and your zoning need to be consistent. Your zoning is supposed to be a zoning that is allowed in your future land use designation. So the other option would be to rezone all those areas to something that is more dense. So you can rezone them to something that's more dense, or you can recognize that the less dense zoning district is appropriate in that higher density future land use.
Correct. And if someone wanted to come in later on and do a higher density project with the current SFR, they would have to rezone that property to a property that would be compatible for that dwelling. So if it, let's say, for example, if it's SFR right now and they're allowed 7 units per acre, but they want more than that, they want multifamily or something like that at 14 units per acre, they wouldn't be permitted to do that under the SFR. They would have to change the zoning district, which is another process for them.
Well, then why would there be, if there's a neighborhood that's surrounded with SFR and multi-family type of thing, why would a developer be allowed to do an TF 14 in the middle of that?
You are talking about a project that we are not talking about right now.
Yeah, I didn't bring it up. I'm just trying to wonder about that. I mean, it's still basically, this is what I'm talking about. You know, you're in the middle of an TF 14 in the middle of an SFR and a multifamily. I'm just wondering how that's determined that you can almost build as many as 40 or 50 type of homes on a few acres, you know, because it's TF 14, right?
Again, this is not the project we were talking about. It is not relevant to what we were talking about tonight to talk about a specific site that is a unrelated project.
Okay.
So if you can zoom out on this map, because I guess I pulled up the map here and I'm just looking at the exact same map that you are, but I just needed kind of to get my head around it a little bit better.
Zoom out too far, it gets all.
Yeah, like that's fine right in there. I'm gonna have you probably scroll up and scroll down on it. So when you look at this and you're somebody here in the city, you probably would recognize kind of these areas. And like the pink areas there are your Dixie Highway, Federal Highway. They've got the mixed use designation. The darker brown going underneath the downtown right there is your MF 20, so multifamily 20. Above that, also your multifamily 20. The light tan in here is your the very light tan. So sorry, you switch back. You went to a different map.
You were talking about
No, I want the future land use, not the zoning. I'd like the future land use.
But you're talking about zoning, listing zoning districts. Though.
Okay, if you can go to the future land use map. Okay, so what I'm referring to here is this one, I think best shows the areas of our city and the densities that they have. So if you can click on one of those pink ones, what is the future land use for that? Okay, so yeah, so I said Dixie, but regardless, you've got mixed use, you've got the darker parcel. Right there is what that is.
High density residential.
Okay, so then you've got high density residential, then you got medium density residential. So that's our city, right? You got your downtown, you got your mixed use, you got your high density, switching to medium density, switching to your single family. So the very light tan colors are your single family, which are your low, the future land use is single family, the zoning is single family. So there is an area that they're pointing out, which is, from what I can tell, that it's that area just to the south of the high density residential where you pointed to. So you can see this all makes sense to you, right? If you're looking at it, you can see where the medium density is in the center, mixed use on the outside, single family is the light color all around it. I think that, to me, I have an issue in the city, and I brought this up before, with the amount of properties that are non-conforming to our code, because our code has become more restrictive over the years. And so you go into some single family areas and you find a proliferation of medium density multifamily housing within those districts. That's allowed more in the single family, two family. And so the specific area that we're talking about has a lot of single family, two family within it, and has a medium density, and probably should not have a single family zoning district attached to it. And now we're changing the code to allow something. And to me, I think this is a big issue. And I'm not saying that I have the answer to it, but I don't think that it's hey, this is a quick little fix. Let's just change the code to do this, because I think that it should be discussed whether or not to do the opposite fix, which would be to if these properties are already medium density for future land use, that's what the city designated them. That's what is built a lot in those districts. To allow single family, two family to be that district makes more sense to me than changing our future land use map or changing our future land use definitions for something that wasn't really contemplated.
We are not changing the definitions. Again, we're trying to
Okay.
reflect reality.
Found out
So
that we made a mistake in the past.
it may
And we're trying
be
to
that
fix it in a way that I don't think is appropriate.
we could
That's my-
pursue the re-up zoning option in the future, but that is a long process that may not happen. So I guess in our minds, the quick fix seems like the obvious choice to
I
kind
think
of
the
stop
quick
the
fix-
bleeding of the inconsistency, and then we can pursue, seeing if there is,
I don't I don't see it that way. I see it as we have a problem and we are creating a way to ignore the problem and let it sit there forever. And I don't think that's appropriate. We do have an issue. We have multifamily all throughout that district, and we somewhere in the past created an inconsistency in our code. And so we shouldn't just say, hey, well, we can fix it really quick by just crossing out this line and making it consistent. No, we've got to go through the process to figure out.
So you do
What it
not
should be.
think that single family residential zoning is appropriate in medium density future land?
I believe that single family, two family is the appropriate designation within medium density.
They're different things.
They are,
Yeah.
that's all I'm asking.
So
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
why, you're essentially, I mean, I know I've heard it 1,000 times, we're not changing the zoning. Why change a name? I mean, it just really, and I get it, it overlaps all these other things that are there existing, but it just seems to me like it's headed that way. I'm just gonna change the zone. So, or at least it's misleading for the person who reads it. That's what I'm.
so we should continue to have inconsistencies and have our comp plan and zoning not align. I think
Well,
as staff,
no,
we're going to
that's
struggle
not
to
what I'm saying.
understand.
That's not what I'm saying.
That is
we
what
should-
will occur though, if we
No.
don't fix it.
If you don't fix it, but you
If we
fixed
don't
it.
fix it with this.
No, you have to fix it by either changing the land use or changing the zoning so that they're compliant with how the code was envisioned and how the code is adopted. We're not just going to change the code because we made a mistake. Like, we need to fix it the right way. Either change its future land use to single family
It's a-
so it matches its zoning, or change its.
Regardless of what
Zoning.
the issues are, the question is, if you think that single family residential zoning is appropriate, one of the appropriate zoning districts in medium density residential future land use, and I'm hearing you say no. And so that is your recommendation that we can take back to the commission.
We do also need to discuss the other one though.
So let's discuss the other one. So this is in specifically the future land use of the artisanal industrial, and we're adding the neighborhood commercial as a zoning district into that. So under artisanal, you have lots of zoning districts that can occur within one future land use.
Yeah.
And one that's missing from there is neighborhood commercial. So what does neighborhood commercial allow that the other zoning districts in that do not currently? So
You're asking it like we're rezoning though again. So
I'm asking because we are making the first step that would allow a rezoning to occur. And so, yes, we are cautious and concerned, and this is the first step that would occur that would allow a rezoning. And so we're asking the question, if we do this and someone was to apply for rezoning, what additional uses could be brought into that district?
Lance, are you pulling that up? Awesome.
Do we currently have this inconsistency as well? Is there somewhere where we currently have neighborhood commercial in?
Right here. It's neighborhood commercial is one of the least used zoning districts in the city. So this is, if you guys know where Washington Avenue is, or 17th Avenue South is down here in the pink. So this bit that's kind of purple is right now neighborhood commercial future land use of artisanal mixed use.
Neighborhood commercial allows for low intensity commercial, office, retail, personal services. It allows for takeout only eating and drinking establishments and essential services. With an administrative or conditional use, it would allow for parking facilities and convenience stores. And the artisanal industrial district includes low intensity commercial, office, retail, and personal services, as well as low intensity industrial, cultural and artisanal arts, institutional uses. It also allows for essential services, same as neighborhood commercial, and it allows for mixed use developments of retail, office, and residential. And with a administrative or conditional use, it allows for medium to high intensity commercial, medium intensity office, medium intensity personal services, medium intensity industrial. So this is similar and some other things, but this is similar to the change that was being proposed in the residential, that the neighborhood commercial is a much less intense use that could also be appropriate in the artisanal industrial zoning district that allows for more intense uses. So this is the lower intensity uses. And whether or not you think those are appropriate in the otherwise higher intensity future land use.
So the artisanal industrial, where all does that, what areas of the city is the artisanal?
Should be further.
It says the future land was AMU. Is it actually artisanal mixed use? Is that the actual zoning?
Yeah,
Sorry,
That's the future land use,
Future land use.
correct?
Yes.
AMU.
And
Okay.
the only zoning district that's under AMU on the table right now is artisanal industrial. So it's this kind of dark gray color. So,
That's DOD.
oh my gosh, you're right. Did you want AMU future land use or okay?
AMU future land.
So this is all AMU future land use right now, this kind of light gray triangle to the south of this city. Let's see, this should be, yep, here. So let's see, so like here's City Hall, here's where Matthews Brewing is, and kind of down south to 6th Avenue there is AMU. This bit to the south of the high school at like 6th and A Street, and then right across the Tri-Rail. And then some more, oopsies, near the FEC Railway up here around G Street and those like really, really skinny properties. I believe those are the primary artisanal industrial areas, or AMU. Oh, and then up here as well, towards the very north of the city. So here's the North Ball Fields.
Okay, you said under AMU now, the only approved density is the artisanal.
Yes, the only zoning district associated with AMU right now in our table is AI, our artisanal industrial. AI is also elsewhere, like in the TOD future land use, but for AMU, it's just the one right now.
Okay. And I know you just went through the neighborhood commercial and you listed all the things, but I guess there's a lot of overlap, it sounds like, between neighborhood commercial and artisanal industrial.
Everything that's allowed in neighborhood commercial is allowed in the artisanal industrial, but the artisanal industrial allows for a lot more.
Okay. So this is kind of the same issue that I was talking about, where we have an inconsistency where you have a zoning district, but it's not supposed to be in this bigger bucket of future land use. And it sounds like nobody would ever want to rezone from artisanal industrial into neighborhood commercial because they'd be getting less.
There'd be less what they
Less
signed up for.
less rights. But you have an area that is already that way. And this is kind of a cleanup part of it.
Correct.
And you'd be keeping you really would be keeping everything on those properties. I don't have a problem with this part of it. I still kind of feel like in general, I don't like, I think this needs kind of more of a thorough review. I really do. I think this is part of like kind of, something that we can look at, like, is that the right thing? Or is it, maybe it shouldn't be neighborhood commercial, maybe it should be artisanal, and maybe that would promote more development in that area if it had, you blocked off this area and said, we want this to be artisanal area, but it already had a zoning that we left in place, I'm assuming.
And so when you change your future land use, or when you change your zoning kind of, wholeheartedly for the city, when you're looking at your planning, right? So this area was, or these different areas were designated with a future land use that is inconsistent with the zoning that they currently have. So there can be no future development or changes to those properties until they become current with their existing future land use. So what you're essentially asking is for each of these properties, as they want to move forward in their life cycle of a property, that they need to request a zoning change one piece at a time and come up to that higher density. So the question is, are you okay with there being lower density uses in these higher density future land uses? Or do you want to make each of these properties become more dense to match their future land use?
Right. I believe, because I've done work there, and I can tell you, if you lower the density there, you're gonna destroy that area. Because right now, people are looking, the only reason they're looking to develop the area is because they have the opportunity to do larger, bigger projects and things that might help that whole area. It makes zero financial sense for a lot of people to go through, okay?
Those higher density uses aren't changing. They're still available. But do you want to also allow the less dense uses? That's the question.
I think my recommendation on this would be, so the reason, and my opinion is kind of different on the two issues, and that's why I want to clarify. This one, because it looks like we're literally talking about 5 lots here in the entire city. We're talking about 5 lots, I believe. And what I would recommend is making the change, because they would have to go in for site plan changes. You're going to look at zoning, you're going to look at land use. And like you said, then they end up rezoning. So I have no problem with approving it on this district, with the recommendation to the commission that they look at initiating rezoning of those to the artisanal zoning. So I would, rather than having them to come back and request and say, hey, I've got the same future land use as everybody around me, but I'm stuck with this neighborhood commercial, whereas they've got the artisanal one, they can do development, I can't. Rather than making them come one at a time, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, why is there an intent? And I think there's no intent in our code that those 5 lots would be restricted different than all of their neighbors. So to me, I would recommend that the commission have staff move forward with the staff initiated rezoning of those. And at the same time, my recommendation on the other ones is 100%. My recommendation is that medium density area just to the south of downtown that has existing medium family, all of it. I live in single family, 2 family. When I drive through that's my neighborhood. It's exactly the same density as what I have. And I think that that's what it should be. So I don't really agree with doing it on the other one, because I think that, I think the city is just going to kind of stop there. And I believe that should stay as is. I don't believe that's such a large area of the city that we're talking about there.
It's more than 5 blocks. You got the north and the south side, like 5 and 5.
Is there on what they were just showing?
The black.
No, it's the purple that it's those, if you scroll back to those,
You're flipping through the.
if you show the,
There's a.
Should be to the south.
so we're looking for the ones that are zone neighborhood commercial that are in the.
This is
So that whole gray area, it has a future land use of the artisanal. And then if you flip back to the zoning, you're going to see that just a tiny triangle out of that gray area is that little
What about
purple.
The black, I thought, was the artisanal.
Black was
That's,
TOD.
The black is, that's not the gray thing. It's
what is the gray? What is the gray?
Back to the black one. The gray one is not. That's what I'm saying.
So what is the?
depends on what you're looking.
So this is the future land use map. The light gray here is the artisanal mixed use,
Right.
right? This is our zoning map. We've got neighborhood commercial with the AMU. We've got the AI with the AMU. And then we've got SFTF 14 with the AMU.
SFT, black. Well, yeah, see, and then it had.
This is more of the AI with the AMU.
It goes way up to 10,000.
But the AI is already contemplated based on what the comprehensive plan shows for AMU. So that portion is consistent.
So, yeah, I think, I guess I don't really have an issue with leaving the extra flexibility within. So is single family, two family, because right to the outside of that, then you're telling me that whole area is single family, two family within an AMU.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that entire area also is inconsistent with the code.
Yes, and if anybody was to remove a residential structure, it would need to be rebuilt as compliant with the AIs
Right.
and be rezoned.
Right. And you don't want to change that because that is the intent. But in the area that I'm referencing, if somebody has a multifamily property and needs to do repairs to it, you do want them to tear it down and rebuild it as single family. And that's
They-
why I'm not supporting this.
Not saying we want that, just saying they could,
The change that we would be making in the code,
would allow it,
no, if
and that would require it.
I'm saying that the code that what we were asking to do, to leave it as single family and allow single family and medium density future land use,
Mhm.
there'd be no reason to make any changes. And if somebody has existing multifamily property and they had to do repairs to it, they would have to convert that to
No,
a single
no,
family,
no, 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 no.
wouldn't they?
No, so similar to this, that again, it's to allow a less dense use in a more dense area. So you have your future land use of medium density. So if you have a residential structure that is SFT 14 or in your zoning district, so you have neighborhood commercial, MF 20, SFT 14. And if what we're by adding SFR into that, you're saying if you want to tear down your duplex
Put a single family.
and change your zoning to SFR and have a single family residence, that's okay. If you have an MF 20 and you want to tear down your apartment building and build single family homes and change your zoning to SFR, that's okay. Even though you're in a medium density zone land use. That single family, straight up single family is okay.
Right.
You don't have to do it. You still have all those medium density zoning, other zoning districts that are appropriate in those uses under those zoning districts.
Yes, I completely follow that, I guess, and I don't want to, I think the point that I guess I'm trying to get at is you're telling us that the problem, what we're trying to fix today is where you have a future land use that has a zoning district that is not an allowable zoning district for that future land use. And what I'm saying that you have a giant portion of it right here in yellow that we're not addressing. And so how is that different from the other ones? Why? Do you understand what I'm saying? How is that?
The reason it's different in my mind is that residential is not a contemplated use in AI. Neighborhood commercial uses are very similar uses, just less dense to what you would put in an AI zoning district. SFTF or SFR is a similar residential use, but a lower density zoning district than the zoning districts that are otherwise allowed in medium density residential. So they're compatible uses. Whereas your SFTF 14 is a very different zoning district than your artisanal industrial zoning district. So if you're intending that area to be more of those business type uses, you would want your SFTF 14 to work its way out of that specific area. If that's your plan, your future land use plan for your city.
So I'm 100% in agreement, and this is the clarification I'm making. It all comes down to intent. And the difference between this and the other residential area that we looked at is that it is the intent contemplated under the code that eventually all of these single family, two family uses are torn down and replaced with at some point.
No, because medium density residential does allow for single family, two family
Sorry,
uses.
I'm talking about these yellow units.
Oh,
right here.
okay, yes, it
I'm
does.
talking about
Got
in
it,
the
got it,
additional
got it, got it.
area, we have the exact same problem occurring. And in this case, you're saying we don't want to fix the problem because we do intend for these uses to expire. For these single family, two family, over the life, they're going to get destroyed and they're going to get rebuilt as something else. And my
Yeah.
point is, the same intent is being applied to the other area, but in reverse. And what you're saying is we understand that this has a medium density, and we understand that the zoning that is in place there right now doesn't match the land use, but we're not going to change it because we want the people who have mixed family, who have multifamily affordable housing units in that area. When there's a hurricane and they get destroyed, we want them to tear that down and convert it to single family. Why is that not the case? If right now, what I'm saying is you have two options. One is rezone it single family, two family, and one is keep it single family. Right now it's zoned single family and it's inconsistent with the code. And so what we're saying is that if you rezone it single family, two family, the problem goes away. If you don't rezone it, you change the code to allow that, then the intent is that over time, any non-conforming use in a single family gets replaced. And that means all of the multifamily properties that exist in that area, the intent is for them to go away
No.
and be replaced with single family.
So so that whole area, back to the residential, the whole area has a mixed or medium density residential future land use.
Yes.
So even though it's zoned SFR,
Right.
if the property is destroyed in a hurricane and they want to change the use or to rebuild, they have to rezone to bring their zoning compliance with the future land use. You cannot have single family residential in a medium residential density future land use.
Are you telling me right now that no permits are being issued for those 500 homes in that area? Is that what you're telling me right now, anyone who goes in for something there that they're going to say your zoning is consistent with your land use, so we can't issue you a permit?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
There's a certain threshold of redevelopment that triggers a requirement for a rezoning if your future land use and your zoning do not match.
And that would be-
Single family residential
site plan.
zoning does not match medium density residential future land use. So if you want to allow for single family residential zoning, if you think that single family residential is appropriate under a medium density future land use, you have to add it to the table. Otherwise, all of those properties have to be rezoned to be more dense and comply with those more dense requirements, which is fine if that's if you think that that's how it should be. But if you think that single family residential is also appropriate, along with those other residential densities, and it's okay to have an MF20 and an SFR in the same future land use, then that's what's being proposed here, is to add SFR to the table. So it's one of the optional zoning districts in that future land use. That it's compatible.
I 100% understand what you're saying. I'm pointing out the discrepancy in the approach to both areas. I don't have a problem with the neighborhood commercial. I do have a problem with the rezoning of the single family. I think in a mixed use, I think that in a mixed use, future land use, adding single family zoning is not appropriate. I think that mixed use density was implied to allow higher density. And I think the single family, two family should be the lowest density within medium density. So I don't see how you have a single family zoning district and you have a single family future land use category. Those go together. Once you get into the medium density, it's the single family, two family and up. That
Yeah,
makes
I think
sense
they're
to me.
both the same thing, and it's kind of like just a labeling of it. And I understand you have other ideas of why you want to label it that way or whatever, but I think it causes more confusion as far as I'm concerned on both ends. So that's how I see it.
With regards to the neighborhood commercial, I don't have a problem with that being a thing. I guess all of those individual people that you mentioned that are in single family, two family, all of those at some point will now have to go forward and individually rezone their property. That's something that I would make a recommendation to the commission, that the commission look at rezoning that area. Because if you're saying that you wouldn't allow them to develop that property under its current zoning because it's not consistent with the future land use, rather than forcing them to go through a rezoning individually, 100 property owners doing that, I would, as a city, that's what I mean. We've got to decide what we want it to be. So I would make a recommendation that both the area south of the downtown area and that area, that the city asks staff to look at doing a staff initiated rezoning on those properties to make them consistent with their future land use.
So do we have some kind of a motion?
Sorry, guys. That is, some of these things are very simple, but they actually have very significant
we got all kinds of-
compounding effects within the
Absolutely.
code.
We have a motion?
If you guys are generally find the. Okay, so here it is. I will make a motion. So I'm gonna move to I guess, how do I split it if I'm this is one single thing, but I don't want to.
Can we split it though?
So you would be
No.
recommending,
I'd rather not split it either.
if you want to split it, you would be recommending that the commission consider the ordinance or approve, you're making a recommendation that they consider the ordinance but only including the one change, not including the other change. There are only two changes, so it's not really terribly hard. You've made changes to
One
many
ordinance.
ordinances for them to consider.
I wouldn't.
So
And-
it would be a
okay.
recommendation to consider the ordinance with only the change in the industrial
it's-
future land use.
I think it's what I'm seeing from my board members here and shaking their heads. I think that at this point, I think that it's kind of too much, and I think that I would make a motion that as a board we not recommend to the city commission to adopt the proposed comprehensive plan text amendments, including ordinance 2025-15.
Second. Second.
Second.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Item C. Ordinance 2025-17. Would you like to read that?
We do not need to read the title for this one.
This ordinance is, I would say, incredibly simple. We are changing basically the reordering of the regulations that already exist for tree abuse or tree removal without a permit. And we are just changing some of the text to try to read more clearly because we'd gotten some feedback from customers that it was hard to understand. But we're not changing the fees or the application of these in any way. Just trying to clarify it for our customers.
So it was basically don't kill the tree and you just want to keep it in very simple text, right?
And if you do kill the tree,
We'll pay.
here's how it's going to go.
Yes.
Yes.
So if it's all that, that's fine, I guess.
I think it's spelled out pretty easy, and if there's no other comments, I'll make a motion to recommend to the city commission to adopt the proposed LDR text amendments included in ordinance 2025-17.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, there's no board discussion for this. I just want to clarify with the attorney, like, I know there's a state law that says that you're not required to get a permit if the licensed arborist says that the tree is a problem to this doesn't change anything with regard to
It
put us
does not
outside
change
of.
anything with regard to Florida statutes. It is a very specific exemption. It only applies to certain properties. There is documentation you have to have in hand. And if you have all of that and you meet those criteria, then you get a free pass and this doesn't apply.
Okay, I'm also in favor.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, planning issues. We always have planning issues. Would you love to enlighten us?
We only have one tonight, and it is a reminder. We will see you in 2 weeks. Except for I think Hank has a conflict.
Also, and
We'll have everyone here. I maybe arrive early.
Stay
You know,
tuned for-
parking might be at a premium
Yeah,
that
but-
night.
yeah.
But yes, we will see you all here 6 p.m. on the 15th of October.
I will, this is my preemptive idea, which I think has worked in a lot of places, Miami Beach and Pompano and a couple different places on these type of things. The latest one was with a what do they call that? The Goodwill, and there was a neighborhood that did not want Goodwill to go in, and they had 150 people that showed up for this thing. And the chairman of the board basically said, after like the 10th person, they all had the same thing to say. He said, guess what? We're going to make this, how many people are against this? Everybody raised their hand and agree with what these people have said. Because we can't be there until 1 a.m. And I get it. Everybody has a right to speak and whatever, but we have to have, there is a unified voice and a unified type of idea that they all have. So I will look into basically saying, look, they should either get a group statement or something like that, because it's just, and I know what it is. People do have the right to speak. Is that correct? Yes.
They
But-
do. So I have seen that as well, you know, and you can ask for show of hands. You can let, you know, someone come up who, you know, first few people, and then at a certain time, ask for that show of hands and ask for if anybody has some new information or something different that they would like to say, you know, that they're still welcome to come up. You know, you don't want to stifle public comment if people think that they feel like they have other things to say, but you can
Mhm.
allow for people who don't necessarily want to come up and say anything different, but want to be recognized as showing their support or objection, that they have that
Every single
opportunity
one
to
of them
show.
does. And it's, I mean, you get to a certain point, then what do you say? This meeting is adjourned at 9 o'clock? What do you do?
Well,
Well, we
you're
can,
allowing 2 minutes, and I can honestly say that there will be a lot of different views on
Mhm.
this. And
Yeah.
I think you have to hear them.
Well,
I understand what you said, and it really makes sense. There might be a few.
I've been to meetings where they do it. I
Yeah.
mean, where they've got
I have
100
too.
people show up and they
I
just,
have too, and I
sorry.
think it does. I do know a lot of seniors will be here, and they're
Mhm.
not people that get up to a microphone and talk a lot, but they want to be recognized,
Mhm.
and so I think that it's a good way of doing it compared to last time.
last time, and that 2 minute thing was not respected very
But
well
it's
either.
going to be crowded, I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, the 2 minute thing will then go, and I'm just gonna cut people off and move it as a chairman, because we cannot let people go on for 10 minutes on a 2 minute time slot.
Right.
So it's
You
gonna
can have some help.
period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, boom, out.
Right,
I'm
no,
gonna
it's true.
Be done.
Yeah,
I just,
there's
it's
there.
also, it's not fair to us, not fair to them. Everybody knows what they're saying. Sure, you want to be heard, but at the same time, there's a reality of getting the
Mhm.
meeting through, and
No, I agree 100% with you.
you know the issues,
yeah,
right? So,
You know, it comes right down to everybody who wants to say something, and certainly shouldn't, you don't want a dozen people come up and say, I don't like the developer, or I don't like this, I don't
which
like
is what
that."
happened last time. Yeah.
I-
Anyway,
I,
all right.
I do think it's possible to have like that when the county does public comment, they have a second microphone. So you can have the person who's going to speak next queued up. So as soon as one person's 2 minutes is up, the next one speaks.
Well,
'Cause there was
Terry
also a
doing
lot
that
of-
last time,
I think you even had like,
yeah, she was getting a line in theory of it, and same with Vice Mayor Malega was here helping.
Yeah, helping people. I mean, yeah, to get it
yeah,
going,
yeah,
whatever.
it's just-
All right, guys. So any department reports? No. Board member comments.
I do want to really quick, because we have gotten called out for forgetting to call for it, the general public comment section as well.
Oh, that's right. Public comments. Would the public like to say anything?
Got a notice about the meeting, and I thought it referred to 1714, the new project that was discussed last month.
Mm.
Again, Glen Bear, 1711 Lakeside Drive. Was that variance, I thought this meeting was about perhaps what's the word I'm looking for? They're requesting a variance on the side setback. And they didn't reapply to have that changed, or?
So they did apply for a variance and the variance was not approved.
Yeah, I know that.
So I'm not sure what the outcome, I'm not sure what happens from now. You'd have to check with staff to see what the next steps are.
They can apply for whatever they want, but they have to bring it forward again.
No,
Yeah.
again, perhaps the notice is about the guy throwing the driveway.
Yeah.
And not for
And-
Yeah, it's right down the street.
All right, thank you. Now do we have any department reports? No. All right, any board member comments? I'm all good. All right, guys. We'll see you on the 15th.